Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing, Sleeping Warrior? Good to have you.
Good morning, how are we?
Very well, no complaints. How are you? Quiet.
Am I back?
Yeah, you are. Were you just on mute?
Sorry, for some reason my machine just went offline for a couple of seconds.
As soon as I start my show each day, I've got like
of the Earth. He still thinks that we live on a ball. He's asked me, will I double down on what I said yesterday? He wants me to reassert my position with regards to the mountain from the beginning part of yesterday's show, and I said certainly. Which bit are you referring to? So he's told me what he wants me to do, and I'm going to respond and do it now. I can't remember where Ranty's composite was. Let me think what I've done with it. Do you have a copy of Ranty's composite?
Not on the computer now. I tend to do all my stuff with you guys on the iPad, so no.
I'll have to have a minute. Let me know when is the link public now?
Yeah, the link's public.
Okay. Pop this out.
Shout out to Ali B. Good to see you. Ding
Ali
Ding
B.
Knockout. Good to have you. Greg T. Nice to see you. Free-minded. Thanks for
I haven't
being
seen
here.
Ali B for ages. Are you coming in, Ali? I've not heard a word from you in 2 months.
Busy man. New perspective. Thanks for being here. Extreme looming non-standard refraction hyena. Thanks for being here. The Rig. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see the rig. I don't think so.
Of course, it's good to see the Rig. He's here supporting my channel, watching my show. Thank you, the Rig. Veen, good to see you also. Mercury Messenger 7, thanks for being here.
I'm trying to remember where Ranty's bloody composite is.
What's wrong with the Rig? Just because he's a globe head?
He gives me trouble. He hassles me. He bullies me.
I'm sure he doesn't bully you. Come on.
He bullies me. He does.
No, he doesn't. As soon as I start my show each day, right, the lounge goes from quite tidy to total carnage because my kid knows that I'm sat doing the show, so she just rips the place to pieces for 2 hours. Then once the show's finished, the place is absolutely turned upside down. But you can probably hear the crashing and banging generally when I'm talking.
Yeah. I can.
It's cute, though.
This is where I really want Ranty to be online, because I can't remember where I've saved this file. I had it open like yesterday. Rantio, wherefore art thou, Rantio?
Greg T says, I was once a globehead, but I did my homework.
Yeah, I was once a globehead as well, and then I realised that none of it was true.
I had a guy from the Isle of Man in the comments, and he said, you know, amongst some insults, have you never been on a plane? You can't ever see a curve. And I was like, well, number one, yes, I've been on a plane plenty of times. I used to be an international rep, so I've probably had more plane journeys than you've had hot meals. But that aside, you're right. There is no curve from 30,000 feet. You can't see it. There should be a curve from ground level that can be detected and can be measured. And if there's a curve at ground level, that is going to get bigger as you go up. Therefore, you should absolutely, unequivocally see a curve from 30,000 feet. That's why it's depicted in Google. It should be there if you are on a ball. It just isn't, because we're not. The Earth's flat.
Unless, of course, it's all a mirage and it is actually appearing to be flat, but secretly it's round.
Well, yeah, if you presuppose that there's a curve and then you presuppose that there's light bending around said curve, 76R, then, yeah, you've already assumed that it's a ball in your argument before you've presented anything. So you assume your own end result in that assumption that there's a curve and that light bends around it. So no proof of a curve, no proof that light bends around that curve. That's the position we're in. Proof of refraction, we don't deny refraction here. As much as we are accused of denying refraction, we do not. We're trying to figure out how it actually works. Now, when we get the globe modelling things like the Isle of Man, we had Phil on modelling it. He confessed the only part of the image he was not able to replicate was the actual visible, observable refraction. That's the only bit he couldn't actually model. All the rest of the assumptive nonsense about light bending around a curve to make it coincidentally look like it's on a flat plane, well, that's no problem. That assumption can be modelled in his software, no worries. But the actual refraction, no, that couldn't be modelled, of course. We can ignore that tiny amount of refraction, that negligible amount of refraction. They can't, because it's all refracted beyond the horizon. Every last bit of it, 100% refraction. Not minimal, not negligible, all of it.
Yeah, last night after the show, literally, Rumpus came in and he was very late to the table and literally got cut off mid-sentence, if I remember correctly, for the end of the show yesterday. But we stayed in afterwards, me and Ranty, because we wanted to hear what he was actually saying. And literally, he's not just doubling down on the refraction point being light bending down. He's demanding that we accept it. And for the sake of discussion, I was like, "Come on, what's your point? All right, we'll accept that light bends down. What's your point?" And once he was happy that we accepted it, then he would go on to talk about all the nonsense that he's calculated. And in the end, he was happy to present all of his stuff to us, and we were listening and watching what he was saying and going through it and staying with it. But then the minute Ranty wanted to show his illustration showing the same thing but the opposite interpretation, Rumpus wouldn't accept it, the illustration, because it wasn't spherical and it wasn't their model. And I was like, but Rumpus, your model has got an eye that's about 10,000 miles high in space. You're showing us like not three quarters, you're showing us 90 degrees or so of the circumference, the total circumference of the Earth. And you've got an eye in space and you're expecting us to accept that this is your model. Don't be ridiculous. You've got to let Ranty present his point. Otherwise, you're just being bigoted. And he wouldn't accept he was being bigoted, but he wouldn't accept Ranty's point, that his illustration either. Notwithstanding the fact that it wasn't meant to be to scale, he was making the point that perspective is an issue here, because things that go further from you drop with elevation. They also drop with height. So the further away it gets, the smaller it gets. But when you've also got it dropping behind the curve over the Earth, that compounds it and makes it worse. So you've got two effects happening to the size of the thing in the background. And Rumpus simply wouldn't let Ranty make his point, because his illustration that he was using at the time wasn't, quote, our model. And he was like, I'm not trying to show it's your model. I'm just trying to show you that things not only drop, but they shrink as they get further away. And he wouldn't have it. So in the end, we had to leave because Rumpus wouldn't accept that his illustration, which wasn't meant to be to scale, wasn't to scale, yet his own illustration had somebody at about 10,000 miles high in space trying to look around the arc of the Earth, showing like 90 degrees of the curvature of the Earth. And he wanted us to accept that, but retrospectively. And I was like, no, if you're not going to let Ranty make his point because you don't want to accept his scale, then the conversation stops. And he doubled down, so we left. Can't have a conversation with somebody that's a bigot. I can't remember where the Ranty composite is.
Don't worry, just chill. It's all good. Didn't need to present it this second.
I promised what's his face though that I'd double down on what I said yesterday, but I need to find what actually the thing that I can double down on. Let's try opening up the program called Photos and see whether it's in the previous files. No, it appears not.
Now it's David Reed. Good to have you here. Soundly's banana cam.
Oh, is the hyena accounts the slightly looming standard refraction, non-standard refraction hyena? Is that friendly or foe?
I actually found out who that was yesterday, but I'm not going to say. Certainly not on air.
I saw the comment. Are you absolutely certain?
Oh, you saw that? Oh, did I put that in there? Hello, Mark Doxy. Good to have you.
Hello, gentlemen. How are we?
Very well, very well. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Excellent.
Glad to be with you this morning.
We're not getting any feedback from me this time. Have you got earmuffs?
I've got my earmuffs on, yes. I've not got my digital microphone yet.
At least we're not getting feedback. That's a good start.
Yeah, I'm getting there. This is all new to me.
So you're the guy that had the photos from the other side of the Isle of Man looking back towards us.
Yeah.
And you're the one that got the pictures on the beach from the waves, and your feet were pretty much in the water, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but I can't. I've not been able to repeat it since. I went down yesterday because it was a very clear day inland, but couldn't see anything of the Isle of Man yesterday.
Yeah, that's the same. Nathan had when he came up to St. Bees, we came up to measure the mountains, but while we were there, we wanted to see how much visibility we had, and it were a clear day where we were, but obviously over Isle of Man it was muggy.
Yeah,
couldn't even see it, let alone pick anything out of it.
Oh well, we've got plenty of time.
Yeah, we do have plenty of time. We have the whole summer.
Yeah. So what's the latest then at the moment?
I'm supposed to be doubling down on something I said yesterday, but I can't actually find the bloody file.
Have you been watching the last couple of debates, Mark? Have you caught the last few debates? Ranty's presented new evidence. I just wondered if you caught it or not.
The last bit I saw was when he went back down to the beach and looked through the actual pillars.
Okay, well, I'll catch you up then. So since then, he's gone about I can't remember if it's 7 or 8 miles further down the road and just took the exact same observation, essentially. The problem with that being that yesterday we showed that when we tried to figure out what was actually there, you go to Peak Finder, put in that location, and there's nothing there. There's no mountains visible. It's all gone. You have to raise your elevation on Peak Finder in order to actually establish where these mountains are or what these mountains actually are. And so we were pointing out that that's a big problem. You shouldn't be able to adjust elevation based on location in Peak Finder. You just stick in your location, and your location is your location. Short of going up a step ladder, you are at a given height when you put in a location. So I don't see the point in being able to physically negate curve that isn't there, which is what the program's based on. It's based on a sphere, and to be able to raise your elevation fictitiously, is nonsense. It's just a means of negating the curve that is not visible. The obstruction that is not there.
So, is there anything being worked on at the moment that's going to be a slam dunk?
We're working on something now. If I can find the damn file, I don't think I've saved it to my PC, and if I have, I've not saved it somewhere where I can find it. And there's that many chats in the chat thing now. I don't know actually where Ranty sent it to me. There's that many of them. So I'm just flicking through the last few conversations to see can I find the actual document. But at the minute, I'm not winning. But there is. I think there is a slam dunk. I made a comment yesterday at the beginning of the show to do with a particular mountain. It was the biggest mountain that he'd found. Quite easy to identify. I don't think anyone's going to dispute the identity of it. But the problem is the way it works is that prominently in favor of flat Earth that I can't see an explanation for it on the ball Earth. I used to have this is what it looks like on a ball Earth perception. Then I'd have to translate it into this is what it looks like on a flat Earth. Then I'd go back to ball Earth and look for the problems with it. Then I'd try and look for the problems in flat Earth. And now I just default to it's flat. This is what it should look like. Everything supports it. I don't even think about the ball Earth model anymore. And I've got that far into it now that I can't even think how it should look on a ball Earth model. Other than I have to actually turn my mind to it. Whereas at the beginning, it was dead easy to put your mind to it because we were all indoctrinated. Then I went through a neutral phase where I was no longer one nor the other, and I was really...
Oh, you cut out.
And then I realised that Nottingham supports ball, and now I default to the position where everything's flat. unless somebody can show me that there is some curve.
Yeah. It's what you observe, isn't it?
Yeah. I just wish Ranty was here. Glenn, if you're listening, Glenn, can you send me a copy of that composite back? Can you send me a copy of the composite back, please? I can't find mine. Let's see if Glenn responds. Glenn McIntosh says, wow, just wow. I mean, I'm sure Nathan's in the same position, Nathan. Do you look at stuff and just think, you don't even consider it a ball anymore? You look at it and default to flat now?
Well, it looks the same on both. You know, you just apply slightly looming non-standard refraction and you end up with exactly the same image in both instances. So even though we can measure things with straight lines and simple trig, the globe model basically represents itself exactly the same as it was as if it was flat. So, you know, they both pretty much look the same according to non-standard refraction maths.
Yeah, according to non-standard refraction, but even with standard refraction, sometimes it gets close, other times it's miles out, and on this one it seems to be miles out.
Oh, it's workable, you just fudge the maths.
Yeah, of course. I'm looking for this damn file.
With enough maths, every observation can look like it's on a sphere. You just have to convince yourself that there's a curve there that isn't. Give me a second, I'll find this composite.
Where do saved files go in Skype?
I don't know, I just have exactly the same problem on my iPad. Literally exactly that problem. So I'm thinking, I can find this. I think I have found it. Do you want me to send it to you on Skype? Or if you've got it on Skype, you just can't save it from Skype?
No, yeah, send it me on Skype.
Send it to you on Skype.
Please.
Okay. There you go. Sent.
Got it. Yes. This looks like, oh, this looks different to what I'm seeing.
Well, he just went and redid it. So he went and... the original one that you had ended. I don't know why, but he just presumably ran out of time. And then he's just done it again. But I think he used a slightly different roll of footage. I don't know why.
I think he had better visibility, didn't he? So we went further.
Yeah, I think that was the reason. But basically, it's just the same thing, but slightly longer.
All right, so I should be able to
just to point that out, actually, that's not a moot point. So it doesn't seem to matter when he goes back, what day, or the clarity. He gets the same mountains. They don't go anywhere. So that's quite an important point, I would say.
I would agree, because this non-standard refraction is supposed to be a rare event. And it's the same with the Isle of Man. It's the same with Blackpool Tower. I've been back and done the Hoylake Blackpool Tower observation loads of times. I mean, it's always there. I always see it. I'm not seeing it dropping behind the curve of the Earth. I'm not seeing it zooming back towards me so I can pick it out. It's just there. It's sat on the horizon like a diamond, if one for a better phrase. And it's always there. It does not change. So it's like, well, if this is supposed to be like non-standard, slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena, then it's not. It's always doing it, right? It's not what it should be doing. Are we on, Nathan? Are we sharing?
Oh, sorry. You want me to share?
Please.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, there you go. You're up.
Right. So, this is a different. Right. So, this is different to what I'm seeing. This isn't big enough for me to work on, but I don't suppose it makes any difference, really. Right. So we've got the pier. You must have this in better quality because I've not got this big enough. It doesn't let me zoom in any more than that. So anyway, it doesn't matter. So I think this is the composite that he did. He was stood on Cleveley's beach. I've got to change my elevation to compensate for the curvature of the Earth because we don't live on a ball in real world. So you have to make it a ball by changing your elevation. Otherwise, you can't see these things. Now,
no, give that a bit more detail. I want that as detailed as possible every single time. So when we go to Peak Finder, let's pop it in again at 180 degrees at 0 elevation and show what happens.
I'll do it. Yeah. All right. So at Cleveley's beach, It's around about 180 degrees. He's spinning around. He's looking generally in a southerly direction, right? So from his position, it's around about 180 degrees. And as you can see, there's nothing there, right? None of these mountains on a ball should be visible. And when you zoom in, the only thing that you see is this thing called Warbeck, which is only 112 feet, and it's 3.1 miles away. Whatever that is, we're not interested. But it's around about the 175, 180. That's where it all is. But because we don't live on a ball, you have to change your elevation. And GeoStreamer doesn't see a problem with this. GeoStreamer thinks that this is a software issue. It hasn't clicked in his head that this is actually an issue. So when you change your elevation and you spin yourself back around and look generally south, you'll see the mountain range that we're looking for, which is that Mole Famu, which is this one. So it wasn't 170, but if I go to 170, 180, which is where I said, maybe I'll have to reset this because it's actually Mole Famu sits at 190. So I'll drop that back down so that you can see that at 190, there's just nothing there. Because I actually did it at 170. All right, there's 190. Zoom in. So at 190 on a ball, there is absolutely nothing. Okay. Now Sly Sparkane claims that I proved that this was a ball yesterday with this. Now he didn't claim that I proved that it was a ball based on what I've just shown you, which proves that it's not a ball. He claims that this horizon line, this dotted line, is the horizon. So what this black line should be there for should be the hump. Should be the hump in between you and it. So what the mountains are showing here is that the mountains are hidden by the black line, which should be the hard horizon, and the dotted line is the horizon according to Sly. Whether he's right or not, who cares? We'll give him it. This is the important bit. When you drop this up to, or you move that up to 100 feet, remember we're at 190. It resets yourself, so it goes back to north. So you got to go back down to 190. Now this is compensating for the curvature that's not there real world. Now I'm sure they're going to change this at some point. Somebody will change this, and they did it. They've changed a few things, but obviously, as you can see now that we're at 100 feet, you can see that the dotted line now, the mountains relative to the dotted line, that basically we can see these things because we're above the curve of the earth. There is no hump anymore. The hump is below the horizon level or the eye level or whatever nonsense that you want to interpret this as. But you've had to move your elevation up. Now, Ranty was on the beach. Now, whatever height you want to put that at, 30 feet, who cares? You're not anywhere near 100 meters, which is 300 feet. So to do that proves that we don't live on a ball by that one movement. Now, the ballers will just ignore that. They'll compensate for it in some other way. They'll come with some rhetoric that says words to the effect of, well, so you're going to reject all of the evidence of science because of this one computer thing? And the answer is, of course, yes, because if you have to change your elevation, you are seeing behind the curve on a ball. But he's on the beach in the real world. A lot of people in the comments yesterday didn't get this point. In the real world, he didn't have to change his elevation. He was able to see this from the beach. Anyway, so here's the double down Ruhif. The mountain I'm circling on the right in the picture here, I'm happy to say, I mean, you look at it, you can see that it matches the topography matches what we're seeing. I'm happy that, and I'm pretty sure that they all agree that Mole Famu is.
Hi, Ali. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. Okay.
How are we, Ali? I've not seen you for ages.
Oh, you can hear me, yeah?
Aye. Yeah. How are you?
Aye. Oh, good stuff. Oh, carry on.
How are you? I'm seeing how you are, man. I've not seen you for months.
Oh, it's no months, man. I'm mooching about, doing a bit of reading and stuff like that, just watching the show, listening, you know.
I thought you'd gone back to the ball.
Well, actually, you piqued my interest there when you were talking about Soundly's video about how the horizon, because I was speaking to someone about it, and I mean, you know how when the one with the lift, they said that the camera was pointing down, but you can clearly see the horizon it rises up. If the horizon, if you're down at low level and you're looking at that horizon, as you go up, that 100% should go down. And it doesn't. It goes up and you see further and further.
Yeah.
So that was it.
I agree. They're all in total denial.
Yeah, well, that Soundly keeps proving the flat earth without realising it. I think he should continue his fantastic work.
Yeah, we now call him Refraction Soundly because he's showing the effects of refraction at all times.
Yeah. So, but anyway, carry on, guys. I'll just.
Yeah, no worries. Right. So, mole FAMU from this distance, when you've compensated for the curvature of the Earth, which clearly is not there in the real world on the computer or on the ball Earth model, you have to do this. We can identify that mole FAMU is basically the mountain that's here is basically this big rascal that's over here. And if you look at the topography of the way the land peters off, it matches. So I don't think anybody's going to disagree. Okay. So then what we do is we go to Google Earth. And then we type in the name of the mountain. Not all of them are in. Just close that. Oops. I'm just trying to get it to do what I want it to do. Keep that open there, because we have naughty people that come in and spoil the broth. Right, so we type in mole FAMU. So MOEL FAMU, MFAMAU, and that then takes us to the
back again. I don't know what happened there.
No.
Oh, did I get dropped off?
No,
I got dropped
Ali
off
dropped.
there. Sorry, I'm back. Oh, I've got 2 icons in there. I don't know what happened.
No worries.
Sorry,
My internet, my signal appears to be a little bit naff today for some reason. But anyway, so Cleveley's, I'm pretty certain, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain that he was somewhere. It was the Black Shadow, wasn't it? Just trying to find where it is. Isn't it?
There's like a black line that runs along it, isn't there? And
that's the line there, isn't it? So it must be the continuation of that. There we go. So isn't it? I can't remember exactly where he is, and I don't want to overcommit to something that I don't know for a fact. I'll do it based on what I believe. Oh, hang on, it wasn't opposite that road. I remember the road. He said that one there, isn't it? So it should be this. So there's the shadow. Maybe this isn't right. I'm going to go with... I don't know his exact position. I can't remember exactly where he said. It's around here somewhere. Nate, do you remember where it is? I don't remember where. I don't know exactly where it is, if I'm honest. I think it's somewhere near this thing.
Plonk him down somewhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna plonk him down here. I'm gonna convert it to miles, because I noticed that yesterday when we were discussing this with what's his face, the Rumpus, he was changing all the units. He was using meters to measure 50 miles, and I'm like, why would you do that other than to obfuscate the point mathematically? So it's nonsense to do a measurement in miles that in kilometers.
How you doing? Can you hear us, Ranty?
It's not the real Ranty, that is it.
Well, he's been kicked for not saying hello. Yeah, if it was Ranty, I'm sure he'll just drop me a line on Skype.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to go with the 50-mile observation, because it's somewhere around here. I don't know exactly where it is, but it isn't going to make that much difference in this instance because it's that far. So let's go with the. I'm going to start with the proper curve calculator, which is the DISIB one, GitHub, because this gives me the geometric curve. I'm not interested in refraction at this point. I just want to see what the drop is meant to be. So the target distance is 50, and his eye height, I think he said it was 12 feet. And then when we hit the magic button, that tells me that there is that much worth of drop, right? That's before we start playing with refraction, right? And we all know that the effects of refraction are negligible. But if you go into the ball Earth model, they become really apparent that they can change it to anything that they want based on absolutely zero evidence whatsoever.
Just qualify that. Sorry, just qualify that a bit further. So in the instance with the Isle of Man imagery, the entire island is subject to refraction. So we have 100% refraction across the entire body of land.
So the curve calcs on this one, without considering the effects of negligible refraction, states that it's 1,400 feet worth of drop. That's the difference between the geometric curve that you're stood on to what it is that you're looking at. The thing will drop by that much. So we have mole FAMU, and it has 1,800 feet. So it's basically 1,400 feet to 1800 feet of geometric drop. Then we start compensating for the effects of refraction. Now we know, and as far as I'm happy to accept, unless there's evidence to the contrary, that standard refraction, the effects of standard refraction are negligible. Now the Ball Earth model states it at 76R. 76R is 15% worth. 15% is not negligible, but that's their model. So we have to work with their model because that's their model. So what we'll do is we'll do 1396 multiplied by 1.06. That would be the, oh, hang on. No, we'll have to, see, I wanted to try and not use the maths, you see, but I'm going to have to, because if I don't do it, they'll not like it. We shouldn't be using this nonsense. It's literally ridiculous, but...
So don't use it. So just don't use it. If someone wants to come in and assert to me that they need to start using this, I'll just do what I did with Ruhif yesterday and say, okay, show me where the proof of this is. You know, I mean, I can have a good laugh if it's someone like Sly and they go, I've got to go and check the numbers. It's like, no, Sly, not the numbers, the image, the actual image that we're looking at, and the evidence of the refraction in the image, not the numbers, numbers. So I'm not interested in these numbers, to be honest. If some globehead wants to come on and assert that we should use them, then use them. But till then, just use GitHub. That's the sphericity of the Earth. Let's go with that.
I agree, until they can prove what refraction actually is. And let's be honest, refraction is subject to the curvature concept, right? So you have to prove that there's a curve there for refraction to do what they want it to do anyway. But until they can do that, why should we even accept it? I mean, that is my position, and we should not accept this nonsense. So on that basis, we can get rid of that, and we can stick with this one.
You've gone to the source, and you've asked Mick West, on what authority have you asserted this 76R? And what was the authority he cited?
He said it was the stars. He actually said the refraction is seen in the stars, right? So me and what's his name, Mr. Thrive and Survive, Rich, cornered him and said, well, why would you cite the stars for atmospheric refraction when all of the observations that we do are all terrestrial? They're all within our atmosphere. And the answer, of course, is because he needs the change in medium, and he needs the gradual change in medium for this. Really, what is standard refraction is really addressing, in my opinion, is the effect on the stars, not the effect on objects that are within our own terra firma. It's the effect on the stars, if there's an effect on the stars at all. And I'm sure there probably is an effect on the stars, because I accept that there is an atmosphere. It's just how much of an effect is there. And if you listen to the Rumpus, he'll put it to anywhere you want it. Basically, he'll apply a little bit more. He'll slap a bit of stuff. That won't be Rich.
No, it won't.
So if that really was Rich, if you send me a message on Skype, Rich, I'm sure we can get you back in. But we know that that's not Rich, because he never ever comes in Hangouts. Anyway, so where were we? Yeah, so basically the refraction comes from the effect on the stars. Obviously, we're not looking at anything out in space. We're looking at everything within the same medium. So the effect of this Snell's refraction is negligible. It's not 76R. And I simply don't accept it. Unless you can show me what is bending round an Earth that is curved, then you can't have 76R, because there's an assumption and a presumption that there's a radius of the Earth on which it's based. And you can't, unless you can prove that radius, you're applying maths based on a radius that you cannot prove exists. Nobody has proved that it exists, as far as I'm concerned. And if it has, I wouldn't even be on this side of the panel. I'd be on the opposite side, and I'd be bandying Nathan, and I'd be bandying Ranty, and I'd be saying, come on, guys, blatantly obvious that it's a ball. There's the proof. And there is no proof. Otherwise, I'd be with you. So,
well, begging the question, assuming the outcome in the presupposition.
Correct. Applying a radius calculation to something that you can't prove, and a radius calculation at 15%, is not negligible. The current science states, as far as we can see, that the effects of refraction are negligible. 15% is not negligible. If you got 15%...
Sorry, I'll qualify that as well. So now I've said about 100% refraction on the globe model with the Isle of Man. In the actual image, when we study the image and find effects of refraction, they are negligible. It's not covering 100% of the image, or 100% of the land, I should say. It's covering a tiny, tiny percentage at the horizon. Therefore, negligible in evidence.
Yeah. So we're at the point now where we've got the maths, and we need to do the doubling down. Now, this is basically, I mean, I can't remember what figures we got yesterday. And I did apply the figures with refraction yesterday. And basically, unless you can prove that there's a radius on which your 15% radius calculation is based on, why should we give it you? I know it is your model, but why should we give it you when it's based on something that nobody can accept exists yet? Everybody believes, but nobody can prove. So I think that we're totally within our rights to reject their model because they can't prove it. If you make an assertion and you can't prove that there's a radius on which your maths is based, then you're not having your maths. It's that simple. So at the moment, I don't think that we should give them it. I think that we should do the geometric curve, and unless they can show us what refraction actually is, then, and we know it's negligible and based on current maths, then we stick with this value. And essentially, we're now at 1,400 feet. So 1,400 feet, and the height of FAMU is 1,800 to 1,400. That gives us 400 feet's worth of variance on what we're looking at. Now, the problem is, I don't have enough zoom on this image to show you, but Mount FAMU sits on the horizon there at some considerable height. There's turbines in front of this, and we know the height of the turbines. They're about 600 feet, but we're only meant to see 400 because of the 1,800 feet that of its total height, 1,400 feet of it is missing. It's hidden. So you've only got 400 feet left. There are turbines in front of it that are sat at 600 feet. So if they were at the same distance, the turbines should appear higher than the mountain, but they're not. The turbines sit on the horizon and are generally quite distorted and quite squashed. Can't show it in this picture because I've not got enough zoom on it, but the mountain is prominently bigger, and nobody can argue that. It's significantly bigger. So the turbine at 600 feet, relative to the mountain in the background, should be bigger than it, and it isn't. It's significantly smaller. Now, whatever's going on with the turbines, we accept that's real refraction. That is the distortion of that which we see towards the horizon. And you get a little bit of, we saw it in the Isle of Man. You get a little bit of that floaty land. That's what's happening with the turbines. But what's going on with the land behind it? Because that's going to drop. Now, this is basically the drop behind the curve. And I don't even think that this considers perspective. I don't think it considers, as something zooms away from you, it gets smaller. I think this is based on the mountain that is presented in front of you. I don't think it accounts for the inverse square law. I mean, I might be wrong there, Nath, but I'm pretty certain this is simply the drop on the thing, but no application of the inverse square law, which would make this hidden height even worse. I think I'd like to know what the reason for that not being explained or put into the maths, because we know things get smaller as they go further away. So the double down is that this mountain appears to be significantly taller than the turbine, and we know the height of the turbine. So relative to the amount of land that we see behind it, whatever value that you want to fudge for refraction, when you take into account the distance that the turbine relative to the mountain takes, the turbines call it 20, but the mountain's 50. So you would expect that to be a dot on the horizon, and it wouldn't look like this. So this is essentially the double down, Ruhif. The mountain is way too big for the height of the turbine. We know the height of the turbine, and we know the mountain is significantly further than the turbine. So it should be smaller, by a lot smaller, because it should be sat on the horizon, because we know the height of the turbine. We have the flat earth math control. The thing that flat earth math tells us is what we need. And relative to Soundly, of course, refraction Soundly's observations are done at 16 miles. Well, that's not even as far as the turbine. And we're seeing that the turbines are distorted to death, which is about the same distance as what Soundly's stuff is done. And we see that same distortion, that refraction at Soundly's. Well, we've got the turbines at the same distance almost, and we're seeing the same effect. We're seeing a stretchy, distorted mess that we don't really know what we're looking at. We call it, what is it now? Dirty air. We call it an inverted mirage that appears to the observer as refraction, as obstruction. Thanks for Sly Sparkane for that one. But essentially, we don't really know what's going on there. But what we do know is that the mountain in the background doesn't appear to be affected by it at all. And if it is, it seems to be going against the curvature of the Earth and bringing things back up again. So this is why they have the nonsense maths. So the double down is we see the mountain sat on the horizon and its prominence relative to the turbine. So you need to come up with something special to explain why it's not sat below the turbine, because of the inverse square law and because of the refraction and the overall reduction in the hidden height that we can't see because of the geometric curve. I mean, there's things there that are an issue that ballers have got to get. They've got to get their head around and come up with something fantastical to explain, because that turbine and that mountain are not in the relative proportion to each other that you would expect if we live on a ball. And it's miles out. Miles. I'm sure Rumpus can come up with some nonsense, but if he does come in, we'll be asking him to do it slowly so that we can consider all parts of his point. We won't be rushing through it. Here he is.
Here he is.
Hi,
Hang on, let me
Ruhif,
mute.
good to have you.
Hello.
Do you have the composite, Ruhif?
No, I never had the composite. I didn't get it.
I don't have the reference to be able to, because really the whole point of this, I don't know where I've saved it, if I've even saved it, and I can't find it. Let me unshare so I can go back and see if I can find it, because we do need the zoomed in version. Oh, actually, what I can do...
We don't really. Like, I'm happy to accept the facts as you state them, that this is Mount... actually, I learned how to pronounce it today, by the way. It's Moyle Vamai.
Okay.
Moyle Famai.
Yeah.
Wow,
Moyle
good on you.
Vamai. Kid you not.
The Welsh will be very pleased with you.
Yes.
Okay, so...
right. So I'm pretty happy that you've doubled down. Thank you.
Well, just before you start, just flip my screen back on, so that we can see it.
Which one are you? Hold on. Yeah.
Basically, the point is that if we live on a ball, the turbine, the hub of the turbine should be above the height of the mountain, and it should sit behind. You should get that perception that the mountain is dropped behind on a curve. But the way we actually see it is that the turbine sits below. The hub of the turbine sits below, significantly below the peak of the mountain, and what this is basically, it's consistent with flat. So what we need to see is that
this is Chris Monk's as well.
Pardon?
Is that Chris Monk's simulation?
No, this is modelled on a mountain of the same height and the turbine of the same height at the same distance that we're talking in the picture, and we're trying to see the aspect ratio of the two things. We're trying to see how should the mountain look relative to the turbine, and this is without any refraction.
Chris Monk's, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm happy that you doubled down.
Okay.
Who's echoing? Someone's echoing pretty badly. Must be Mark. Not Mark. It's Nathan. Or you, Anthony.
Let me just pause. Is that any better?
Let me check. No.
It could be something just to do with you being a new guest sometimes for a couple of minutes when you first join, because I'm on mute anyway. I know it doesn't say I'm on mute in the Hangout, but I am. So everyone else is on mute, including Sleeping Warrior, and it was still echoing, so it may just dissipate after a minute or two.
All right. Anyway, I'm happy that you've doubled down. Do you want to go through the numbers now? Just to confirm. Yeah, okay. So in the Hangout yesterday, you had on your screen, it was 52.19 miles from Cleveland's Beach to Moyle Vamai. I have to not think about the actual letters in the word to say the pronunciation, which is sharp.
How did you get
so 50,
by the way?
Oh, there's like a walking group that do I'm going on a walk today and going to film it, and I'm going to Moyle Vamai.
Okay.
So there's videos on YouTube. Yeah. Alright, yeah. So from Cleveland's Beach to Moyle Vamai is 52.19, and Ranty says his elevation was 17 feet. I checked with you before I came on, by the way, that we're, for the sake of argument or for sake of this issue, accepting standard refraction, and you agreed to that, right?
I'll agree to it because it's your model, but I don't agree to it in principle. I think that we have to have the discussion, so we have to agree to it. Yes,
but for the sake of argument, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So 52.19 miles away, 17 feet. The refracted hidden is 1248. And the elevation of the mountain itself is 1808. So the amount visible is 560. Do we agree with that?
Distance in miles was 52 point what?
52.19 miles.
52.19 miles. And then the observer height was what?
17 feet.
I thought it was 12.
Sorry, why are we taking the refracted hidden value again? Didn't we have this conversation yesterday, Ruhif? It's begging the question. So I don't really understand why what evidence do we have of this refraction?
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
No, we're on to you automatically begging the question. and inserting this
No.
mathematics for refraction. So I want to know what evidence.
I have asked Anthony to agree for the sake of this point, and he has agreed.
Yeah, I think for the sake of this point, we can agree to move on, just because although Nathan's point is valid and I agree with him, this assumption based on the radius of the Earth and 7/6 of the radius of the Earth is massively optimistically huge. It's 15%, it's a lot, but this is your model. So
yeah, but you're accepting that our model includes standard refraction. That's
I accept
fine.
that your model includes standard refraction, yes.
Yes, and it is on the basis of that model that you say this observation by Ranty disproves the globe. Just
Correct.
So we're very clear. Okay.
Correct.
Good. All right, so 52.2 miles, 1248 refracted hidden and visible of 560. And you're saying
refracted hidden. Hang on, let me hang on. So let me just let's get to the point where we agree.
Yep.
What was the height? It was 1800, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1808.
18, so 12, so it's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 550, right?
Yep, 560, but yeah, close enough.
Yeah, 560.
Okay, so 560 visible, and you're saying that the turbine, no, hang on 1 second. Children not asleep.
So whilst he's having a look there, if anybody
Don't worry,
does
I
have
totally relate. Give him a minute or two.
Yeah. Do you want to do a link, Nath?
Nah, we've only had 40 minutes, 45 minutes. You're right on topic, so...
I just wish I remember where I put that composite or where it bloody saves to.
To be honest, I think for the sake of discussion, I don't think it's even needed.
Yeah, because we need to see how the turbines relate to the mountain when we get after the maths.
Yeah, maybe. I think we're all in agreement in terms of how much this scales.
All right, so we're back.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's 560 feet visible of the mountain, and you're saying that if the turbines are 600 feet, then they should be, appear higher than the mountain, right?
Correct.
Yes. And you've had yourself, Nathan, Arwen, Ranty, and I assume Chris Monk, who did the modelling, completely forget that you're not taking into account the refracted hidden of the frickin' turbine.
It's not a lot. It's for like 40 feet or something like that.
Have you worked it out?
Yeah, it's gone into the model and it's been modelled on the refracted hidden of the turbine. But
what is there? No, the turbines are 613 feet.
We'll give you 40 feet of refracted hidden if you think we've missed it.
No, put it in the calculator.
So hold on, how much are you saying?
Put it in the calculator. I want to see you guys do it.
So the distance in miles.
Five of you guys have not taken this into account. And you wonder why everyone thinks you're
hold
stupid.
on. So not only have I not decided to let you have this, you've got Sleeping Warrior to concede it for your argument. Now, not only are you begging the question, you're also going to insert a different part of that exact fallacy to prove your point. Is that what you're doing here? Are you having a laugh?
We have agreed. We have agreed for the sake of argument to accept standard refraction.
No, I haven't. Sleeping Warrior conceded it for the sake of this discussion, and I'm saying you're begging the question and you're using that as proof. Are you having a laugh?
Hang on. Before we get to that point...
He's proving his model using refraction. That's what he's doing. He's begging the question. He has no evidence. That's why I asked. You said we'd get to it later. Let's get to it now. What evidence do you have that the rest of the image above the horizon is in any way subject to any refraction? I want you to demonstrate it and evidence it. This 7/6R bending all this crap around the Earth, now evidence it in the rest of the image above the turbines.
Nathan, just speak to me.
This is the biggest derail I've ever heard, Nathan.
Why?
Wait a second.
Hold on. Why is it derailing when you are begging the question? You are assuming the outcome in your presuppositional argument. That is begging the question. It's a logical fallacy, and you want me to accept that like you've proved something. It's total horseshit.
Hang on. All right, just stop a sec. Nath, speak to me. Forget about the refraction for a minute. His point is about the hidden value of the turbine, but we're not referencing the amount that the turbine's hidden. We're referencing the top parts that we can see. and it's relative to what we can see, regardless of whether it's dropped behind curve or not. Where that mirror shows, no, it is, because wherever it shows the top of the turbine or the hub of the turbine, whichever, relative to the mountain behind, we're not bothered about the hidden value. We're looking at the top of it. So it doesn't matter what we're looking at, and it's relative to the turbine. So the refractive hidden on the turbine is meaningless. It's literally.
Well, then I'll just say the refracted hit on the mountain is meaningless. I can't believe you guys don't get this.
Right. The refracted hidden on the mountain is important because it drops because of the curve.
So does the turbine.
Right, but we're looking.
I can't believe you haven't accepted this.
We're looking at the top
but the
of the
mountain
turbine,
is
not the
further
bottom.
away and should drop significantly more around the curve of the Earth, exponentially more, dropping it in relation to the top of the turbine.
So let me double down on this point, because this is the bit where Ruhif is not getting, and I can see that. No, seriously,
you've had five guys look at this. No, and not one of you is taking into account the hidden of the turbine.
Look, can you look?
Let's drop the mountain down, but not the turbine.
So we have taken into account the hidden of the turbine, and you're just ignoring the point that we're making over and over again and laughing like it's some sort of amusement. With
Nath, wait, let me have this. Look, Ruhif, can you see the base of the turbine? Do you see a base of the turbine on this one? No. Why is that? Because it's been modelled on a sphere. So that is behind that is including, it's removing the turbine, the drop that you're referring to. So yes, we've had this modelled on your model. It has been accounted for. There's the base that's there. There's the base that's missing. You can see by the stem, the length of the stem, that the length of the stem is not the same. So it has been accounted for. But even if it hadn't, we're not interested. We're interested in the top of the turbine relative to the top of the mountain. Not bothered about the bottom. It's not like Mackle Lighthouse where it's on the horizon. This is above the horizon, and we're talking about the top of it. So
you are comparing. Listen to this very carefully. You are comparing the 550 or 560 feet visible of the mountain to the 600 feet of the turbine, half of which is not visible.
The top of the turbine sits 600 feet. Not bothered about the bottom.
And the top of the mountain sits 1,800 feet.
Yeah, but we're not bothered about the bottom because it's dropped behind the curve. We know that that's that
so has the turbine. Okay, yeah. It's a massive case of special pleading. You're saying one can drop and one doesn't.
No, we're saying it's accounted for. But right, okay, so we can move on then. Let's take off the value of the turbine for a second time so that you're satisfied.
Yes.
It still isn't going to make a difference. So what value did you get for the hidden on the turbine?
Let me check. Hold on. It was roughly 29 miles away, depending on which turbine exactly it was.
29. So we're
29
talking,
miles, yeah.
So we're talking a difference of 40 feet? No, 60 feet.
What?
All right.
No, 29 miles.
We're talking about the refracted hidden, right?
Yes, from 29 miles away.
So you've got 380 and 316. So 316, it's 60 feet. You can take 60 feet off. Why is the mountain sat where it is relative to the turbine?
They're 600 feet high. You've taken off half.
No. Right, look, we're only taking off the bit
confused, Anthony. So refracted hidden, according to their maths, says that 316 feet of the turbine should be obscured.
Yes.
And I would agree, in the evidence, it would seem exactly correct. The problem we're pointing out over and over again to Ruhif is the mountains in the background don't seem to have the same effect being applied to them. We are looking up through the turbine, which is at a fixed height. It doesn't change, doesn't make any difference what the atmospheric conditions are around it. That height of that hub is fixed to the Earth. Yeah? In relation to the mountain, which is at a more severe drop, it is further away and further around the curve, and should be as depicted on the right on screen right now. It isn't. It is considerably higher. If you're to say that we have 300 feet of the actual turbine visible, we still should have the same effect as on screen, with the mountain at a considerably further distance dropped to the level approximately of the hub. It doesn't. It hasn't dropped in relation. It still scales as we look up above the refraction zone on a flat plane.
The fact that you guys don't get this confirms everything I've ever thought about flat earthers. Seriously.
So explain to me why the mountain in the background hasn't dropped in relation to the turbine.
What? They've both dropped. This is the thing. You're not dropping the turbine.
Why hasn't it dropped exponentially more? It is further round the curve and therefore should have dropped exponentially more than the turbine. Why hasn't it?
It's also 1,200 feet higher than the turbine.
It should have dropped exponentially more than the turbine has dropped and hasn't.
We can mathematically work out how much it should have dropped and how much is hidden.
We've just done it on screen. Right? We've just done that. We've shown you with the maths. And the drop is considerably more at the further distance. Obviously, it's further and you believe you're on a sphere. Yeah, what part of this aren't you getting? The mountain's further away. If it's on a sphere, it's dropped more.
That's projection, Nathan.
No. What part of it don't you understand, Ruhif? It's further round the curve and has therefore dropped more, according to your model.
Yes.
Right. It hasn't in the image.
Higher.
In the image, it hasn't done that.
Yes, it has. It has dropped further.
No, it has not.
It has dropped like, what, 1,400 feet or something, hasn't it? And the turbine's dropped.
When we scale it, it hasn't dropped. What part of this aren't you getting? We've got two depictions on screen. One of them matches the observation and one doesn't. The one on the left is a flat plane observation that does not account for refraction. Hence, the stalk is longer. The right-hand one is a globe observation, modelled on your sphere, and you can see that the mountain's dropped exponentially more because it's further away. That's not what we actually observe in the images.
How much of the turbine is visible on the globe?
You tell me.
I can't believe you guys are not conceding this. This is blowing my mind.
We understand that refraction is an effect at the horizon. We do not deny refraction is occurring in this image. It's evidenced. However, according to your globe, the mountains in the background should have dropped exponentially more, and your maths shows that.
Right.
Yes.
Ruhif, is your position that you think we've not accounted for, is it the refraction on the turbine or the drop on the turbine or both?
The refracted hidden. How much of the turbine is visible?
Right. These illustrations do not include any effects of refraction. It only deals with the drop side of it.
You're on mute at the moment,
maybe
Ali.
He's got that wrong.
Pardon?
Eh? Who's on mute?
It's Matt. Oh, is it working now?
Yes.
Oh, it's right. Thanks. Right. Is it Ruhif or whatever your name was?
Yep.
I thought you said the other day you were actually going to draw it out. You were going to actually make a diagram of it to show the lines in your line of sight and all that. What happened to that drawing?
I did it in Excel, so it's not actually a drawing, but it's in Excel.
Sorry, Excel just works on numbers.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're not going to model it.
You're
just going to apply numbers.
You said you were actually going to do a drawing, show the lines of sight, the perspective lines, and you're going to do that.
I can give you the angles.
Yeah, go for
it. Angles like drawing a piece of paper.
No, I mean the angles. Why don't you draw it out like you said you were going to draw it out?
Sure.
What's the problem? You said you were going to draw it out, or did you find there was a problem with it when you tried to draw it out, so you just decided to use numbers instead, or what?
Which one do you put more trust in?
Well,
the evidence, the pictures.
That doesn't matter. See, this is so you never, right? Let me finish. So you never done what you said you were going to do, and now you're backtracking and trying to say, "Oh, we'll do it with numbers instead," which obviously tells me you've had a problem doing it, and that's why you've resorted to doing numbers. Would I be correct?
I'll give you all the numbers, and I will draw it.
No, well, draw it then. Yeah, do that. Do it like you said you were going to do it before you start. You're obviously not understanding what Nathan and Anthony are trying to explain to you about the top, the photograph. No, listen, you're not understanding.
You're joining the six guys that have absolutely no idea. Can someone answer for me, please, how much of the turbine is visible?
Yeah, that's good. That's fine, right? I can agree with that. We don't have an idea. Why don't you go and do a drawing?
We do have an idea. We've got a picture of it. We can show it in a picture.
I've not got a clue, Nathan. I need this guy here to to show me, because I can understand what these two drawings represent, but obviously he doesn't. So if you can explain it in your way, Ruhif, not with numbers, but actually do a drawing. You could do it on a bit of paper. You could, you know, draw a line and then show the height of the. I could do it. I could do it in 2 minutes.
What do you think the basis of the drawing will be?
That's the point. They're measuring from the top. Forget about what's happening.
I know they're measuring from the top.
Right,
Can you guys
exactly.
answer a very simple question?
Yep, but the bottom has got nothing at all to do with it. You're measuring from the top down to the horizon.
All right, so the bottom of the mountain has nothing to do with it. The bottom of the mountain has nothing to do with it.
No, it's the top of the mountain, the top of the turbine.
You keep going from the bottom.
Yeah, how much?
Which is quite for you. But you won't discuss the fact.
I'm going to go quiet. I'm going to go quiet until you guys stop talking so I can talk.
Right, well, be quiet and mute yourself, right? So I'll finish my point then. So the point is, you're not seeing how it would look. The picture on the right-hand side is how it would look like a ball. Look at the photograph. Does the photograph look like that as it's modelled on the ball? No. So therefore, there's a problem, obviously. Now, what you can do what you promised you said you were going to do, is draw it. Bit of paper, bit of pen, a wee ruler, and then you can debunk the flat Earth just like that, if it's so easy. But you failed not to. You chose not to. Now I believe that you actually found out that you couldn't do it, so you just resorted to numbers. That's me finished. I'll mute.
And to be honest, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, well, of course.
Are we done?
Ask your question, Ruhif. I'll answer you a straight yes, no, or whatever it is that you're asking.
Well, no, it's a calculation. How much of the turbine is visible?
Do you mean mathematically, or do you mean on the map?
Yes.
On the map?
Mathematically.
So okay, so let's go back to the nonsense maths then. Where is it?
What do you mean? Why are we going to the maths? Go to the picture.
You have to understand.
There's a picture.
This is
Hold on. Why is it that we immediately go to the maths? Because he's insisting that we go to the maths when we've got a picture and we can see how much of it is visible. What we have measurements of, what's listed online, are the heights of things, the tops of things. So that's what we're measuring to, Ruhif, because that's what we have actual documented measurements for, the tops of stuff. Do you understand that? I love these protracted silences.
He's just running round in circles because he can't explain it, that's why.
Let's just get an answer. Do you understand why we're measuring to the tops of stuff?
Put some very simple numbers into a calculator and none of you can do it.
No, I'm asking you a question. Do you understand why we're measuring to the tops of stuff? The stuff that we have documented and listed?
Yeah, so you can see the angle, and one angle will be higher than the other. It will appear higher.
Right. In your model, it doesn't. In your model, it appears to be lower.
Let's put the numbers in, shall we?
We've already done this. We've already gone through the numbers. The height of the mountain isn't high enough for your model. It doesn't work.
Let's demonstrate it.
We demonstrate it with pictures and images. It's on screen right now. Can you see that? It's on screen literally right now. And
what are the numbers behind that? Because that determines what is shown.
It's been modelled. Okay. Unfortunately, I know, I'll make a disclaimer. Chris isn't here. He's the one who's modelled it. He could go through the numbers and actually show them. If we had the picture slightly extended, it would have the Blender models on screen. We've cut these down just to make them depictions, visual depictions. However, it has been modelled on a sphere and on a flat plane by Chris Monk. We will do a demonstration. We have modelled it. Unlike you, who says you would model it, then didn't. That was Ali's point.
Oh, I've got the numbers.
We've got two models. One's yours, based on your numbers. That's on the right. Total fail, doesn't look like the picture. We also modelled it on a flat plane, and it matches. What we don't account for is refraction, which is your point. So at the bottom, it's not cut off on the left-hand side image. Correct. It still matches the image, though, with the things we can measure, the things that we have documented, like the top of the turbine. That's what we have a measurement for. Like the top of the mountain, that's what we have a measurement for.
Right, here's the thing. That turbine in the real world evidence, and this is the only thing I can cite at the minute because I can't remember what I've done with the composite, but where that pointer is where the top of the turbines is. The turbine sits here. You've got all this space above it, and it's supposed to be 50 miles away, and you're telling me that you're bothered about how much is hidden or whatever with the thing. I don't care how much is hidden. We're bothered about the top of it. We see all of it. Or whatever we see of it, we see the top of it. So relative to the top of the mountain and the top of the turbine, we know the ratio. And what I'm saying is, and what we're saying is, that mountain has to be basically either at or below, depending on how much the inverse square law pushes it into the smaller position because it goes further away. So ultimately, this has got to be a lot closer to this than what it actually is. That's the point. So I don't care what your math says. I don't care how much.
You don't care what that says. That says everything, Anthony.
No. Math says nothing. Math says maths and only maths. This is the evidence that we've got. We've got the turbine tiny on the horizon. We have a massive mountain behind it that should be swallowed up by like 70% of the curve of the Earth, should swallow up 70% of it. And we're not seeing that because we would be able to judge it based on the turbine. So it doesn't matter whether the turbine's obscured or hidden or not. What matters is, relative to the turbine, how much are we seeing? And it's clearly significantly more. Your model...
Relative to the top of the turbine, you should be saying, Anthony. Because
yes, even
if the horizon was up to the very, very top of that, you should still not see the mountain. So it's irrelevant how much the bottom, how much of that turbine is missing. The point is, the top of that turbine is your reference point.
Correct.
That's the end of the story. Doesn't matter what's below it. It's the very top. And on the ball model, it should be lower than the top, but it's not.
How much of the turbine is visible?
It doesn't. You see that?
Yeah, the top of it. The top of it. The height of it. The height of it's visible.
I know why you can't answer it.
No. Do you know what proportion means? Do you know what proportionality means?
That's the issue.
That's exactly where I'm headed, champion. That's exactly where I'm headed.
Right. And do you know what ratio is? Yeah.
That's exactly where I'm headed. Let's go.
2 points of observation. You've got the top. Forget about the bottom. You've got the top of that turbine, right? You've got the top of the mountain. Now, according to your model, the top of that mountain shouldn't be where it's being seen. End of story. It doesn't matter what you say about the bottom's hidden or nothing. It doesn't matter. It's got nothing to do. It's from the top to the bottom, and the mountain does not go lower. It doesn't go where it should.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can gish gallop and ride about in your horse.
I'm asking one question.
But you'll still be wrong. Listen, you'll still be wrong no matter what. And now I think you're just being dishonest.
How is one question
in your representation?
So answer your own question then.
The question is how much of the turbine is visible?
Okay, so give
us
the answer.
It's not a difficult question.
So give us the answer.
We need the composite to answer that.
So will you give us the answer?
No, I'm talking... Oh, sure. I'll say, let me see how far it is. 1 sec.
Well, if he's working on the... It depends on what values he puts in for which turbine.
It doesn't matter. You can see how much of it's visible. We've got a picture.
In the order of 29.5 to 30 miles. I found the turbine it's most likely to be, I think, is 30.3 miles.
What the hell does that have to do with how much of the turbine's hidden? That's the distance to it. Spit it out, man.
And
you've asked this question about 5 times. Now give us the bloody answer.
Yeah. Okay, over 300 feet of the turbine is hidden.
And what the hell does that prove?
Well, what was Ali B talking about, perspective and similar triangles?
So the mountain is in the background that should have dropped exponentially further behind the curve of the Earth. What does this prove in regards to the top of the turbine and its relation to the top of the mountain, those things that we can measure? What is this actually proving? The fact that half of the bottom of the turbine is obscured. This proves absolutely nothing as far as I can ascertain.
Nath, I've got it. Nath, just share my screen, mate.
Let Ruhif answer me.
Oh, yeah, let me answer. That'd be great. We can see about 300 feet of the turbine. It is 30 miles away, which is more than halfway. We can see almost 600 feet of the mountain. Can anyone draw like a similar triangle in their head and tell me which one's higher and which one's lower?
We can't see 600 feet of the mountain. We can see considerably more than that.
If you would like to.
The mountain is double the distance of the turbine. Yet, it should be approximately the same height if it's on a ball. It isn't. It's considerably taller.
No, the ball does not say that the turbine is higher.
Right, look at my screen, please, Ruhif. I've found the composite. This is the real world evidence, right? Forget the maths for a minute. Let's look at the evidence and let's interpret what we see.
Can you go to Moyle Vema, whatever?
Yeah. I'm just showing you that. Can you see that there's two turbines that are here? And then
barely.
Yeah, and then there's another turbine there. However much of the turbine is obscured by the curve of the Earth, fine. However, look at how much mountain there is behind it. That's the point we're making. You can have whatever obscurity you want, but this is on the. This is the.
You're drawing similar triangles.
Pardon?
You're drawing similar triangles. This whole thing is about this turbine is halfway to there. Therefore, if it's 600 feet, it should be at the same level as the mountain 1,200 feet high, right?
On your model, the mountain drops. And it drops to the point where it drops
This
behind.
is such a simple point, Anthony. Such a simple point.
Make your point.
If the turbine, let's say we're on a flat plane, we're just going to draw some similar triangles, right? So the turbine is 25 miles away, halfway. It's 600 feet high. If you then go to 50 miles away and the mountain is 1,200 feet high, they should be the same height from your perspective. Do you agree?
No, they shouldn't. No, they shouldn't. That's a load of rubbish.
What?
It doesn't. The curve doesn't follow that rule that you just made up there. That curve doesn't follow that rule you just made up. It's 8 inches per mile squared. It doesn't just because something's happening.
I said assuming we're on a flat plane.
What the hell are you here for? Why are you even here? Just assert your globe nonsense.
No, I want to hear what he's going to say. So, two triangles.
Let's take the globe out of it. Let's just assume we're down the street. In fact, someone said yesterday, like you're out on the ground. There's a building 10 feet high, 20 meters away. Sorry, I got units confused. 10 feet high, 100 feet away. And there's another building 200 feet away that's 20 feet high. They should appear the same height from your perspective.
If it's double the height, it's double the distance. I agree. But what's your point?
Yes. My point is that the turbine has a roughly 300 feet visible. It is more than halfway.
No. 300 feet is blocked off the bottom. Not 300 feet is visible. We see the top of it, which is an elevation of 600 feet. So the height of this turbine doesn't change because of the atmospheric conditions. We still see the top of it, and the top of it is still 600 feet. So you claiming that we see a 300-foot turbine is complete and utter nonsense. We don't see a 300-foot turbine. We see a 600-feet turbine, and the top of it is still at 600 feet.
You guys are so retarded, I can't handle this seriously.
Excuse me, don't call us retarded. That is a fact. The top of this turbine is still at 600 feet. It hasn't suddenly become a 300-foot turbine. That is ridiculous. That is the biggest load of nonsense. Gish gallop, get out, I have ever heard in my entire life. The top of this turbine is still, fact, at a measured 600 feet. It suddenly doesn't become a measured 300 feet in elevation. That's complete nonsense.
1,800.
How high is the mountain? Right. How much of the mountain is visible?
1,800.
No, on a globe. We're talking on a globe now.
Sorry, so we're flip-flopping between whether or not we're talking about a flat plane or whether or not we're talking about being on a globe continually. So you're just gish-galloping your way around your point with nonsense, basically, aren't you, Ruhif?
Right, hang on. Let me ask Ruhif. Can you see this line of different contrast that drops through the image?
No.
Okay.
I think Ranty needs to put the original video up because it doesn't render well.
No, I agree. So what I'll do is I'll send you a copy of it. Save as copy 3 desktop. So it's called Compy 3. Right? So I'll go to there you go. And then Compy 3. Where is Compy 3 gone? One of these somewhere. If I just press C now, it should take me there. Compy 3, there you go. There's your copy. We've all got the same material now. Could you open that and could you confirm that you can see the line that passes through the middle of the picture and it's horizontal? For those in chat that can't see, there is a line that I'm following it with my mouse. There's a line that follows through the image and it's clearly a foreground artifact mountain, we can identify that as well.
Oh, can you add Ali B to this group combo between me, you, and Ranty, and I'll send him my diagram later.
Okay.
No, thanks.
Oh, jeez.
Thanks. No, it's all right.
He doesn't use Skype.
Anyway.
So you don't want to see the video. You don't want to see the picture.
Well, he doesn't use Skype.
Actually, I don't. But thanks anyway for the offer.
You can present it. You can present it.
No worries.
But you've got the file. Have you got it open? And have you found?
I'm just going to say Famiao is the biggest mountain, right? Is that it?
Right, but I'm asking you, can you see that there's a mountain in the foreground?
If I squint, I'll accept it. Just, yeah, keep going.
Okay. So if you accept that there's a mountain in the foreground, we can identify what that is too.
Cool.
So what we
There's
can
some
do,
land. Is it?
what we can do is we can go to, I'm assuming my screen's still being shared, yeah?
Yeah, you've been shared.
So what we can do is we can save the line to Mount Famu, and we can open the elevation profile, and we can see that there's this area here that would give us what we're seeing in the picture. We have a peak at 1,700, 1,800 feet, and we have some at lower. Pull this back onto screen, not that one. Get rid of that for the minute. So this point here represents this band of land that's in the foreground, and that's only 800 feet. Okay, according to this, just under, it's about 800 feet. So you're telling me that this mountain range at 800 feet at 50 miles away isn't behind the curve of the Earth?
I can't identify that mountain range. Like I said, if I squint, I can see some sort of line.
Okay. Well, there happens to be a mountain range of elevation in on Google Earth that we can identify, and there happens to be a line in the picture that goes right the way. You might be able to see it now, but it goes right the way across the picture, and it passes right the way across. So unless you want to deny that that's something that's an artifact of the evidence, then we have an issue here, because we've got something that at 800 feet is easily gone behind the curve of the Earth. So forget about the turbine for a minute.
I can't identify it.
You don't need to identify it. We can see. We know where Mount Famu is. We know where Mount Famu is, and we can see that there is a plateau in front of it.
It seems very interesting, Ruhif, that at the moment that we start to look at the things that aren't at the top, you want to look all at the top only, right? So we're back to doing what you're doing, shoes on the other foot again. So you've gone halfway down this turbine. We're now going halfway down the mountain. You appreciate that we're doing exactly what you've done, right? You get this?
No, I actually don't.
All right,
don't.
Let me put it this way.
So you're saying that we aren't allowed to go halfway down the mountain and point out that there is actually a distinguishing thing, something we can actually see. You just say, oh, it's just not very clear. Can't really see it.
It's not very clear. Like, I've even got the original that Anthony just sent, and it's not clear at all.
All right, let me try.
I certainly can't identify it as that thing.
Let me try changing the details so that we can pick it out a little bit better for the benefit of everybody in chat. I don't know whether this will work, but we'll try. Ooh, can you see it now?
Hang on.
There's a distinctive black line that goes through the bottom part of the picture. There appears to be a cloud here. Can you see the cloud? What looks like a cloud?
Oh, let's try and identify that bit then.
The cloud.
Not the cloud. I think it might be I don't know. Could be some.
No, let's look at the contour of land. We see a contour of land, and it matches on Google Earth. Would you agree that it would be an extremely extraordinary coincidence if that wasn't what we're looking at?
No, I wouldn't agree.
No, it would have to be an extraordinary coincidence.
I disagree.
Really?
Why would that be? Would it be because you need this land to be 600 feet high, right? Is that why?
50 miles away.
Right, 50 miles away, it's so blurry, but we can see it. It goes right the way across the picture.
I can't identify that. Come on.
No, we can identify it. You're just denying that it's there.
I don't think you can.
Well, we've
I
got a
don't care
sight
what you
line.
think. If
We've
you-
got a
if you
sight
refuse
line.
to
Hold on,
accept-
it's there on the right hand side of the image. So what you have on the right hand side image in Google Earth is a red line that runs along this direct line of sight to a mountain that we are all in agreement of. In front of it, there is a piece of land that Anthony is now highlighting. Are you just going to be a complete denier and say, "Nah, that's not it"?
I'm saying it's too blurry to make anything out. There's no
Right,
contrast
it's
really there.
too blurry. Yeah,
Well,
we've
you
heard it
can-
all
you can say
before.
that.
The lighthouse is just a smudge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Righto.
So you're going to deny that this whole landscape that appears here, that happens to line up with this bit, you're going to deny this because you don't think it's clear enough yet. You've got the copy and you can manipulate it the same way that I can. And I'm pretty certain that everybody in the chat can see this. It's blatantly obvious,
Yeah.
Rufus. Come on.
I so much disagree that it's blatantly obvious.
Nathan, can you see it?
I can see it.
I can see something. I can't identify it as like a separate piece of land.
Ali B, can you see it? Ali?
Probably
What's
making a
that I'm
brew.
looking at, mate? I'm looking
Ali,
at-
can you see it?
Hello? Yeah, but see what? Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah, that's
You can
that's
see the
an
line.
illusion.
You can see the line that passes through horizontally in the image, yeah?
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah.
Hey, Jazz.
Yep. I'm just
Jazz?
doing a drawing at the moment. Wait a second. I'll be back.
Jazz Condor, are you there?
Quick. Hey, nice one.
So, if Jazz was actually there, I was going to ask Jazz, can he see it as well? But there is a line here, and it just so happens to be about 800 feet, which is only 200 feet taller than the turbine, and the turbine sits what looks like 200 feet below it. How can you argue that this is in accordance with a flat, a spherical Earth?
Because it's nowhere near clear enough to identify it.
No, you're denying that it's there.
Hey, sorry, Anthony. How much of the mountain is meant to be hidden on the ball Earth?
Somewhere between 12 and
1250.
Most of it, more than half.
Yes.
So
We should see
Yeah.
500 feet of the mountain according to the sphere Earth maths, and that is approximately how much of the top of the turbine we see. The turbine sits at about 600 feet. So even though it's 50 miles away and the turbine is about 20 miles away, we have a situation where the mountain is considerably larger than the turbine, and it should not be. If you think you live on a sphere, it should have dropped, the mountain that is, exponentially further around the curve of the Earth, and it hasn't.
What we can do, Ruhif, if it helps, we can make this a little bit bigger, and it will lose a little bit of the quality, but we can put lines in.
Well, that's not helpful.
Well, it is helpful because we can put lines in and we can show people in the audience that there is a line here which you just refuse to accept. But watch
Well,
this.
no, I see a dark area. I can't identify that as any sort of land or anything.
So let's change the thickness of this to a thin line. We agree that that's 1,800 feet.
Yes. Yeah, that's Famio, isn't it?
Yeah,
whatever.
There's a line here that goes through that is, according to Google Earth, around about 800 feet. So if that's
But
1,800
how are you
feet,
identifying that? How are you identifying that as that 800 feet line?
can you not see what's on screen? This is the
Yeah.
sea. And then we get to the land, which starts rising up, and this is the A55 that goes through North Wales. So this is so this bit here just happens to be 800 feet according to this. So we've got 1,800 feet. So half of 1,800 feet would be what, 900, and then this is like 800. So we're below half, but 800 there, and then we have another line where the turbine sits, which is about there. So if we say that
can't
that's
even see the turbines.
1,800, and we say that that's 800, and we say that that's 600, how much more do we need to go before we get down to virtually nothing? And we accept that refraction is a bit of a thing. So that would be about 800, 600. That would be about 300. Are we not seeing right the way down to the bottom of the mountain?
No.
Why not?
Are we not seeing right the way down to the bottom? Are we not seeing right the way down to the bottom of the turbine?
I'd agree. We're probably missing about the same amount of both at the horizon line. There's the same amount
Quite
of
possibly.
obstruction, formerly known as curvature, blocking both. So I would agree in terms of what Ruhif has asserted, that if we're missing about 300 feet off the bottom of the turbine, we're probably missing about 300 feet off the bottom of the mountain.
But it's this bit that's the problem, Ruhif.
What's the problem then? I know, like I said, I'm not going to identify that as a land.
Really?
Well, at least the 800 feet land. No, the 800 feet land that you're talking about.
Why?
The only reason we can identify this mountain is because of the shape of it.
No. Why? Answer the question. Why are you not going to accept that there's something in the picture in the foreground at around about 800 feet?
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's 800 feet. You have not demonstrated that's 800 feet.
I have.
I would agree.
No,
We
you
haven't
haven't.
demonstrated
You've
that.
just
And
tried
until,
to
sorry,
say-
I've got to agree with Ruhif. Until we actually demonstrate that that is the land that you're asserting that it is, you can't just assert it. That's totally unreasonable. I mean, you can speculate that that's the land, and he can say, well, I don't agree, it's just blurry, as much as I want to belittle that. That's true.
No, there's 2 points here, Nath. There's firstly is it in the evidence at all? Is there a line in the evidence that indicates that there is something in the foreground? That's the first issue.
Yeah, he's conceded that.
It's dark.
He's
there's
conceded
something
that.
dark there.
Right. So you do accept that there's something in the evidence that's not Mount Famu?
Well, it depends what you call Mount Famu. It could be like the steep part leading up to it. I don't know. I'm saying you can't identify it. At least what you've got here, you can't identify it.
But we can see that this line goes right the way across the whole picture. And
They're going around in circles. He's conceded that.
Right. So then there is something in the picture, right? So then the issue is, what is it? Well, we can look on Google Earth and we can see, is there anything that fouls it that might be consistent? And there appears to be something that's there. So I would assert that this is what we're looking at.
You've got to go perpendicular to that.
1 sec.
I agree with you, Ruhif. Until they actually do sight lines to all of this or match up the topology in the foreground in some way, you can't just assert that it is that. Yes, it seems to logically make sense, and I can agree with that, but I can also agree with you and go, it's just a smudgy line. It was me who identified it in the first place and said, this looks to me like it would be this stuff. So this is actually my argument, but I know the flaws in it. So I agree with you.
I'm gonna find a piece of paper. I'll be back in a minute.
No worries. That's probably quite a good opportunity for me to do a little link, actually, so I may as well do that exact thing right now. Hope you're enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and a link in the info box below the video once it has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the panel, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. Please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream. Please also share the show, as this increases the chances of a more diverse panel by increasing the audience numbers, so please share. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There is approximately 30 minutes left on this live stream.
I'm just drawing. Give me a minute.
No worries. You take a lot of shit from us, Ruhif. You're a good guest.
Thank you. Fucked it up already. Hold on. No, back to bed.
Right, I'm back. Where were we?
Ruhif's just drawing up a diagram, I think.
I'm actually just parenting. Give me a minute.
No
All right, well,
worries.
while he's parenting, Nath, do you want to update me with what your position is? Did you say that I wasn't asserting something good or something?
In regards to what?
Well, there appears to be land in the evidence, and it appears to line up with the land on Google Earth. And my position is that if in the evidence and we can get a match for it, it seems reasonable and logical that we may actually be looking as low.
Hey, Jazzaconda, can you hear us? Hello? Hello?
I don't see Jazz.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to want to let me eject him either. Weird. Oh, there we go. Yeah, need to say something, Jazz, if you're gonna join, or I'll just assume someone's nicked your screen name and is gonna snipe everybody. Yeah, it was me who identified this stuff in the first place, Anthony, and ultimately, I agree with you. Logically, it seems to make sense that it's the stuff that is identified on that direct line of sight, at least at that singular point. It can be nothing else as far as I'm concerned. But when you then try and tie it to the rest of it, then you need to do exactly the same work as you've done on the peaks, which is to say line it up and identify it and show your evidence to prove that it is that line. And for one single point on one single sight line, I'll agree with you. But there's a whole lot of line going left to right that you're unable to assert anything about, as far as I'm concerned. So, I've got to side with Ruhif.
No, I don't agree with that. I think that we can identify any of the mountains on here. And, well, we can identify any of the mountains. And if we can identify the peak and then put a straight line to it, we can say with absolute certainty that that is, according to their model, what that land should be.
I agree. With one line. So the one line that you drew, at the point that it dissects that line, the lower line, I'd agree. On that one tiny fraction. When Ranty, you and I spent about 6.5 hours going through it, drawing a multitude of lines to every single peak and then cross-referencing on Peak Finder, that's a totally different kettle of fish to what we're doing here live.
Sure, but look, check this out. Let's go with FAMU, which is there. One sec.
Probably good timing, as it looks like Ruhif's about to scribble something down.
Give me one
camera on.
Oh,
you want this shoe on, do you? Come here, then.
Hey, Ranty's here.
How do?
Hello, Ranty. We had a fake Ranty in earlier.
Oh, did we?
We did.
Wonderful.
He wasn't as handsome as you, though.
Huh?
Same exact avatar.
Come on. I'm just waiting for my photo that I took of my drawing to upload to Dropbox to my lappy.
Right, I'm back.
You're back.
So, we can identify any of the mountains, yeah? So we can look FAMU, and what we can do is we can follow it down. And what I want to do is get to one of these other ones further down to the right. So we're going to go FAMU. So we're going to see that there's a peak, a drop, and then it flattens off. So we're going to see that would be the peak.
You're not presenting at the moment, by the way.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Anthony, do us a favour. Can you show me them two drawings that you showed? You know, the two perspective things of the picture with so I can I'm doing a wee drawing here, and I just need to see the two little pictures that you put up to show. Yeah. You know, with the mountain in the background and kind of thing. If you can just fire it on just for 2 seconds while I finish my wee drawing here, if you don't mind.
And now, the gallery.
Now, on a spherical Earth, the mountain drops. On a flat Earth, the mountain doesn't. This is not with refraction. So, Ranty can explain.
No, just give me a quick look at the photograph. Just quickly fire it up so I can just finish this wee thing I'm doing.
Can you pop up the two different turbines, Anthony?
Yeah, that one. Or even the composite. The composite will be fine, but I just need to see the relation of the windmill, or whatever you call it, in comparison to the back of the mountain. Yeah, but the model will do fine if you can manage that.
I can send them to you, Ali. I'll just fire them across on Skype. If you open up your Skype, I'll send you those pictures.
Yeah,
I'll dig them out.
I think I'm opening up. Thank you. I'll just mute. Nice one, Nathan.
So you're presenting at the moment, Ranty. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I've basically been doing a lot of work on these turbines. This was this Puffin Island thing that I was checking out. Turns out it's not actually Puffin Island. It's what's it called?
Great Orme.
Great Orme.
Great Orme.
Yeah, it's Great Orme.
Hey.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Does that
confirming
therefore
that,
mean that
Ranty.
Anglesey is or is not seen?
No, it's not seen.
It is not seen.
No.
Hey.
No,
Ruth's having a good day here, isn't he? Ranty's going to give me a right ear. Anthony's going to give me a right ear bending after the show. I can just feel it coming.
well,
No, not at
essentially,
all.
once-
I missed what was said.
Well, once I've got this, all these wind turbines in the absolute exact place, you can identify pretty much anything. So, like this turbine here, which is, we've got 3 turbines here, 1, 2, 3. They're the last 3 that we see in the image. We don't see that one, unfortunately.
Actually, Ranty, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure, yeah.
Can you please tell Jamie Brown that you don't see Anglesey? That'll make my day.
Okay. Right. Well, that one's obviously that's the nearest one, the second to last one that we can see in the image, which is this one here. So if we just follow a line of sight along, let's say this one here, if I put come on, there we go. If I do the elevation profile of that one, for instance, when it decides to work, it says that I don't have anything. Look at that. That isn't what I expected to see. Where's that? Oh, there we go. So we can see mountains at 1,400 feet from 40 to 64 miles away, directly behind that turbine. So all these mountain range, all these lines here, all these turbines and everything have been individually marked off on the composite. So any land that's seen behind these, so you can go to any of these lines, for instance, go to this line here.
So can we go to Mount Famu, seeing as though that's what we were talking about for the whole show?
I'm sharing, brother.
I was going to say, can we just get to
AU.
once Ranty's finished? Just let us know when you finish. I want to get to Ruhif next.
Is that it? Mount Fam AU.
No, M-O-E-L.
Mole Vamai. Mole Vamai.
M-O-E-L.
Moyle Vamai, sorry. Moyle Vamai.
We got the pronunciation. It's Moyle Vamoy.
How do I spell it?
M-O-E-L.
M-O-E-L, yeah.
Space F-A-M.
Yeah.
A-U.
AU, right. So let's search for that. There we go. So there's Mount Famu here. What is it you want to see here?
See, now I've got that specifically identified. You don't. What have you got identified behind it?
Kadir Bronwen, Kadir Derwin North Top, Mole Sitch behind that.
What's the red line to the right?
This one.
No, the one to the left of that.
That.
Yeah, what's that?
That's blah, blah, blah. I'll find out now when I click it. Got that many lines on it, probably doesn't want to notice it.
You have to right click on it.
You don't. I can't get it up. I'll just put another line in for it. So what is it you're after with that?
Mole for my
Yeah.
is in the image, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it is.
And I agree.
So what is it your argument is with that?
Just go and put your line into Mole for my.
Right, okay. Why is it? Well, I don't know what's going on with my Google Earth. It doesn't seem to be playing today. Right, put one line in. No, it's not letting me put a line in, is it?
Too many.
Probably is.
Oh, your path. Go to line.
Put it on line. Clear.
There you go.
You're going to have to press clear first.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Because you're not using Windows 10.
Yeah. I don't want to use Windows. Who wants to use Windows 10? Right, so there's Mount Famu. So what do you want me to put a line to Mount Famu?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That's basically this. Yeah, put it on where it says the peak of it is.
About
that's
that,
basically
isn't it?
the same line that you've got. But you've gone past it. So what I want to ask you is, why have you gone past that and not considered FAMU in the foreground? Because this is a scale issue. How far are we seeing?
Oh, come on. You're not seriously saying we're seeing the mountains in the background?
Well, it's a possibility, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
Because Ranty's been away for like the last 3 days. I've hardly had a chance to speak to him.
If we look at this one, for instance, this is we've got a 2,000.
I'm sorry, Ranty, I'm going to stop you right here. Before we speculate about these mountains in the distance, I want Ruhif to be able to show us his diagram, so I'm going to pass it over to Ruhif. You go ahead, Ruhif.
Cool. I'm sharing. Apologies for my diagram. It is a drawing. It is not based off numbers, Ali. But I've drawn the numbers on. Am I being presented now?
You are.
Cool. Right, yeah. So you got your observer. I'll bring up my one sec. There we go. So the observer over here sees the top of Mount Famio over here, and the top of the turbine here. The Earth is curved, so half of the turbine is obscured, and 2/3 of the mountain is obscured as well. Now, with similar triangles, if this was halfway, then 300 would equal 600. But this is not halfway. This is actually, I think, 2/3 of the way. 2/3? Well, 60% of the way. So this 300-foot visible above the horizon is going to equal 450, 470 or so feet on this side. Therefore, it will be below, it will appear below the mountain.
See, there's an inherent flaw with this. So if you were to draw a line below, so you've got 3 lines, curved one at the bottom and the middle one. If you were to draw a line below the one that's in the middle, i.e. along the actual line of sight that you would have, you would see that you're seeing considerably more than 600 feet, which is our point. So just for the audience's benefit, there's a line here. You can't see that, Ruhif, but the audience know what I'm talking about. That shows that we're not seeing to this point, we're seeing to this point. So that's an inherent flaw in your diagram, I'm afraid, my friend.
And they're not
Given that I can't see, can you turn that down, whatever that is?
So below the line that you've drawn, the middle line,
Yep.
Yeah, there'd be a lower line, wouldn't there? That you could also see in your
This
diagram.
is the horizon. This is the horizon. This middle line is the horizon.
Right, but according to your diagram, it isn't. So you could insert any numbers you like based on your diagram. The horizon's lower than that, isn't it?
Like I said, it's not the greatest diagram. I could give you the numbers.
No, that's handy.
Yeah.
Don't you just love numbers?
I do, actually.
Ruhif, when you finish making your point, pass it over to me because I'd like to respond to your diagram.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yep. If you scale the triangle from the observer to the visible portion of the turbine, 300 feet, that triangle will be below the same scaled triangle if you scale it to the mountain at 550 feet or so. 550 feet will be greater than the 470 or 480 feet, whatever that scales to. Therefore, the turbine should appear below the mountain. The end.
Be nice to see a scale diagram of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, I can do one, that's fine. But if you can't do that in your head, there's a problem, right?
No, well, you haven't done it on paper, so how you...
Sorry, if we can't do that in our heads, we're presenting actual modelled, identifiable, easy to identify with scale drawings of this stuff. You're drawing a pencil sketch.
And it's
Yeah, I can give you the angles.
Hang on, forget the
angle.
Can I respond to your diagram?
Yes.
Nathan, can you share my screen?
Yep.
All right, so
I'm just wondering why you done it in a curve. You could have represented that with a straight line.
Yeah, but he's trying to show it on a curve, right?
No, but I'm saying I don't know why he done that, because that represents nothing to me. It doesn't even make sense, actually. You could have done that. You should have done that diagram on a straight line. It would have just been the same. It would represent the same. You could imitate the curve with a straight line across it, and then scaled it.
Sure.
I don't know why you done it on a ball.
I drew it on a piece of paper.
You know,
I drew it on a ball. Do you not understand why I did this on a ball?
You've not even got that wind turbine in the right place.
No, it's about 2/3 of the way. It's 30 miles against, what, 52 miles? So a bit less than 2/3.
It's 3/5. It's 3/5 of the way, yeah?
Yeah, but it's more than halfway, right?
It's 3/5 of the way, yeah?
Yep. So the 300 feet will scale to less than 60 feet. 600 feet.
But look, I mean, that's not even, that's just that's not even to scale. That's stupid, that drawing. That doesn't even make sense, that drawing. You've not even got that doesn't even make sense. Why didn't you just draw it on a straight line and then done your triangles? You could have imitated it like that. You got a ruler. You must have a ruler. Draw it in a straight line and convert it. I mean, obviously you know mathematics. Obviously you know mathematics. So it should be quite easy to scale that on a straight line. The straight line, and then done the measurements with that. It's quite easy. That there shows nothing. It proves nothing. In fact, it's stupid. Actually.
What if something is 300 feet above the surface, more than halfway to the mountain? What is the maximum?
It's not 300 feet above the surface. It's not. It's still 600 feet above the surface. The turbine will always be 600 feet above the surface. It's never going to change its geographical position. It physically is 600 feet above the surface of the Earth. That's what we have measurements for.
Yep. And how high is the mountain? 1,800 feet. So the mountain's higher, right?
But you've just put in an arbitrary line there.
Oh, it's a drawing. Come on, champ.
As shown in the picture, as shown in the photographs. So yes.
But it's not, that represents nothing. That is actually, you've just wasted 5 minutes of your time, because that represents nothing. Really, when you look at that, are you telling me that's an acceptable drawing or an acceptable representation to make your point? If that's you making your point, you're way off the mark, mate. I think you should go back to...
Mate, I can't help you if you didn't pass high school maths. Seriously.
No, but...
Well, look at it. But look at it. It's not even... How do you...
Can we go to my screen?
You presented.
Right, Ali, can you see my screen?
Now, look now.
Would you agree that if he was to do a diagram, it would look more like this?
Yeah, because light bends.
On their model, this is what their model would say.
Yeah, of course it would. Of course it would.
So, Ruhif, on that basis, would you agree that my diagram of your model is better than your diagram of your model?
Well, you got the turbine. You got the turbine half, but the mountain, it should be like 2/3 to 1/3.
But I'd say that's 600 and that's 1,800. That seems proportionate to me.
No, but isn't there 2/3 of the mountain missing? There's 2/3 of the mountain missing, right? On the ball.
Yeah. We can only see where I wrote 600. I should have written 550.
No. See, what you've done is you've twisted it. What you've done is you've twisted it the wrong way. There should only be 2/3 of that. It should only be 1/3 of that mountain shown.
Yeah, there is.
And half of the turbine, meaning at that distance, the mountain would be way below the turbine. Way below it.
No, this is what the diagram shows.
Okay. Go and do the mathematics on it then.
I've done the maths. Right. I thought you didn't give a shit about maths.
No, well, do the mathematics that represents that drawing that you've just done there.
I've done the mathematics.
You're showing.
Would you like to know the angle?
That's yeah, but there should be more of the mountain hidden. That's not actually how it works. How you're saying that works, because there's a distance of what do you call it, 20 miles or 25 miles or whatever, allowing for the drop of that mountain. That mountain should be below the mountain on the ball. The mountain should be just below. It should exactly replicate what Anthony's drawn on the right hand side that he's got that picture there. That's exactly how it is. How it should
I will
look.
tell you categorically that picture on the right of Anthony's that Chris Monk drew is wrong. He probably hasn't added refraction.
Really?
That's my guess. Yeah, I'm guessing he hasn't taken into account refraction.
Aye, okay, fair enough.
I would like to see the numbers behind that drawing.
Sorry, so what you're saying is we should presuppose your logical fallacy in our modelling of the sphere.
What's the logical fallacy?
That refraction's bending light around a presupposed curve. The evidence that is never been presented by you that this is occurring, you want us to assume it.
We settled this an hour ago, Nathan. Anthony and I have accepted, for the sake of this discussion, that the globe model has refraction 7/6R. That is a common point of agreement for this discussion.
That's a logical fallacy.
Well, you can call it that, but we've accepted it, so whatever.
It is. It's a logical
Maybe he's got
fallacy.
a better
Begs the
drawing.
question.
Maybe Rumpus has got a better drawing.
Yeah,
Hi,
I've
Rumpus.
got lots of good drawings.
Oh, brilliant. Bring it on.
Oh, Jesus.
Did we miss anybody checking the back door then?
Do you want a second? Hang on a second.
Branty, are you there?
I am, yeah.
Just check your Skype.
We'll do in a minute.
Who are we waiting on?
We're not. I'm just chilling, man. I'm watching Peppa
all right.
Pig with my kid.
I'm guessing,
I'll happily fill in airtime.
I'm guessing we're waiting for Thingy to come back in.
Rumpus.
Yeah.
How about we scale? Let's scale. Let's scale 300 feet or whatever it is. Hold on. The 300 and it's less than 300. 297 feet visible of the turbine. Let's scale that from 29 miles to 52.2 miles. To 534 feet, which is less than 560. Therefore, the turbine should appear below the mountain.
No. Turbine shouldn't appear below the mountain. Why do you say that?
Because I just did the maths.
Because he can make the numbers make it do anything he likes.
Can you show us the maths?
Why?
So
He's
you
prove a thing. Fudging the numbers to make it work on his globe. So what?
To scale, the amount visible of the turbine at 29 miles. Actually, let's properly put in 30 miles. That'll make it even worse for you guys.
Even worse for us. This is you clawing back stuff, not making it worse for us.
Well, no, I actually just measured it to the turbine, and the most likely turbine is about 30 miles. I'll do it from the closest one. Right, let's do that.
I don't care where you do it from. I want to see how much of the mountain should be behind the turbine.
Oops, hang on. This beach. Yeah, it's still over 30 miles. Yeah, 30.2 miles.
Okay.
Let's write this down. 30.2 miles. And let's get a refracted hidden from that 1 sec. 30.2. Hidden of 350 feet. Wow. All right, so that makes 263 feet visible, I think. Is that right? Yep. So there's 263 feet visible of the turbine at 30.2 miles. And we're going to scale that triangle out to 52 miles. So let's go. Oops. Okay. 263 divided by 30.2.
Your diagram is fundamentally flawed because you're not taking into account perspective. Things
454. 454 feet. So if the turbine were at the same distance as the mountain and scaled up, you would see 454 feet of it. We can see 560 feet of the mountain. Therefore, the turbine is below the mountain. This number is bigger than the other.
What about perspective? The things get smaller as they go into
This is perspective.
No, you've not done that with the mountain. You just put it onto a piece
No,
of
I've
paper.
scaled them both to the same distance. We can scale the mountain back to the turbine if you like.
The actual size of the mountain is getting smaller.
Yeah.
That is the turbine, but you've not accounted for that.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a huge thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.